Well, thank you. Hi, everyone. Officially, my name is Stanley Nicholl. I'm from Spotify, and I am excited to talk to you today about how companies are unlocking the true potential of Backstage. So first off, welcome to London. Welcome to sunny London. I don't know why that's crazy, but right now it's great outside. Welcome to Backstage Con Europe 2025. I appreciate you all being here. I'm excited to talk to so many of you. I say let's let the Backstage Love Fest start, right? Let's get right into it. Speaking of Backstage Love Fest, you're going to talk to a lot of folks today. You'll read blog posts, and you're going to hear some incredible stories about the transformative power of Backstage. And when you come out of those conversations, when you finish reading those blog posts, sometimes it feels a little bit like Backstage will solve all of your engineering problems just from spin it up, ship it to production, you're good. And it does have that power, right? We see it. There's tangible evidence out of there. So again, I'm from Spotify. You probably have seen some of these numbers in blog posts or heard them in podcasts. But some of these outcomes that came from Backstage internally at Spotify, right? 2x the code shipping 2x the code in a fifth of the time. Right, 66% reduction in onboarding time for new engineers, which then resulted in a 5% reduction in turnover, right? And so our retention went up, which in this day and age, keeping your engineers around longer is so vitally important. And so Backstage has not only impacted, obviously, our bottom line, but it also has made a tangible shift in our engineering culture within Spotify. Other companies are also saying things like this, right? You've got Chicago Trading Company. They've mentioned saving 18 months of an engineering time. Toyota of North America mentions that they save $10 million a year annually through automation via their Backstage instance. But then, like I said, you're going to talk to a lot of folks. You're going to hear some great stories, but these massive, these eye-watering ROI numbers are not a foregone conclusion for every adopter. Again, it's not as simple as spin it up, ship it, you're good to go. There's a lot of work that goes into this. And so, it's not a foregone conclusion that this is what is going to happen. But I think that my hope is today that I can help bridge those gaps for any of you who are earlier in your Backstage adoption journey. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I didn't really introduce myself. So again, my name is Stanley Nicholl. I'm a mostly former frustrated engineer now that I get to use Backstage. But I was a consultant before I was at Spotify and working across a lot of different clients, and I discovered Backstage. And I saw what the future could be compared to what I was living day to day. And so I definitely bought a ticket on the hype train. I was all in. This seems like a great idea. Oh my gosh, this would help the current client that was on so much. I bought so much of a ticket that I joined the customer success team at Spotify to work with our Backstage adopters across a number of our service offerings and software offerings as well. So I'd like to talk today, the remainder of today, about how we potentially can help close the gap between those that have seen those ROI numbers and those that are still searching for them. So again, that's my main thesis today. My main question: what is that difference? Why doesn't everyone see these numbers? Well, as I got into my role in customer success, there were a few things that I uncovered. That helped me zero in on that key ingredient that I feel is the true unlocking power of Backstage. The first bit is, I came into it, Backstage is a very technical product, probably one of the most technical products I've ever worked on in my career. And I thought I was going to be talking about technical implementation, configuration a lot. That is not what ended up happening. The vast majority of my conversations with the adopters that I support are on people, they're on process, they're on culture, habit shaping, and awareness and storytelling, right? It is completely flipped of where I thought I was going to spend my time with my adopters. The other thing is, this is a new trend, and it's just burgeoning. I'm very much going to keep track on this one, but there, I believe, is a coming trend where folks have been adopting Backstage for a while, and they are starting up a fresh instance as almost a safe harbor to remove tech debt, decisions that they made in the past, and they're porting things over into this fresh instance that's in hopes of being able, like I said, to be able to unlock some of that ROI and implement some of the right processes, guidelines, and standards that will help catapult them forward. And then the other aspect is every single one of my adopters at some point in time, probably multiple times actually, asks me, how does Spotify do it? Sometimes, again, it is how do they set it up technically, but for the vast majority of the time, it is about how we manage something or how we enable people or how we work together or collaborate alongside each other to make sure that everything is running smoothly. And so I spend an enormous amount of time researching this, both with external companies, but then you'll also see a lot of Spotify information, as that's where we've had it the longest. We've been able to run through a lot of the roadblocks that have existed. And so, what is the commonality? What is that common thread amongst those that see those gaudy ROI numbers? And my thesis here, what I finally came down to after talking to a countless number of adopters, is it's community. It's your developer community. But beyond that, it's a developer community that is engaged and feels heard. It's one that's inspired about what Backstage can do for their everyday workflow, so they don't just look at it from what it is, but what could be. This community is encouraged to invest in accountability and self-service, not for themselves only, but also paying it forward for other people to be able to self-serve. And then eventually they're enabled to build solutions that solve their unique challenges, which we're going to talk a little bit more about that. One of the data points that leads me to this conclusion is the community that we've developed inside of Spotify when it comes to Backstage. The first is we have nearly 1,000 contributors across our organization on our internal instance of Backstage. That's resulted in over 200 plus plugins, not to mention the ones that we have removed as they became old and stale. And it resulted in a 95% adoption rate, which is the foundation. That is the catalyst for all of that, the ROI numbers that we see, right? So all those dollars, all that time saved, it is adoption, it is daily usage. So if by fostering your developer community, there's really three things that I think it will drive. There's probably many more, but there's three key ones that I think are the crux of being able to maximize your ROI. The first is Backstage product velocity. We're going to talk about what that means here in a second, but how quickly can you develop new features? How quickly can you add content, etc.? A sense of ownership. Driving a sense of ownership across your community. This is one of the strongest, the most correlated factors in driving and changing human behavior. And we have to change engineers' behavior, which is possibly the most stubborn animal on the planet. So this is a tough challenge. So ownership is a massive thing. You're going to get sick of me saying that word here today. And then again, it will result in adoption, which is, in fact, the ROI, the driver of the actual ROI that you'll see. Now, I'm a former consultant. There's no way I could get by presenting something with more than 10 slides without a framework. It's just who I am. It's in my DNA. So I built a framework and talking about what does this look like on one end of the spectrum where you start versus where, I don't know about finish, but where you hopefully end up living. The first is centralized management. So everyone starts here, oftentimes with a POC. And then but on the corollary, the other side of the spectrum is your distributed ownership. And we're going to get into exactly what those mean here. So centralized management. When you first start, your team is generally small. Backstage is in effect empty, right? You do have some auto discovery that you can put on, but it's GitOps related, right? So it's generally empty. And awareness of Backstage is low. Not only that Backstage exists inside of your organization, but also what can it do, right? Backstage is great, we love it, but it's not it's not a household name that every single engineer across the world knows, especially if they're not a platform engineer. So here's where, as I mentioned, the product velocity. So the product development lifecycle. This isn't unique to Backstage whatsoever. This is just how products get made. identify a need, build the thing, make people aware that the thing exists, make them, help them use it or encourage them to use it, measure and improve, right? Well, that's all well and good, but the problem is the surface area of feature sets within Backstage is effectively infinite. It's so flexible, so extensible, but think about just some of the core aspects, right? Custom plugins, software templates, UX improvements, creating more content, filling Backstage up with content, scorecards and standards, right? Your team, when you're first starting in that centralized management role, you have to be an expert on everything. And that is really, really difficult, right? It is, and the thing is, you're gonna have to take care of all of those steps and all of those domains, right? You're covering everything. And so it can become very lonely. And the worst part is, the more successful you are at it, the more requests you're gonna get. The more time people are knocking down your door saying, I need this or I wanna improve that, right? Because they're using it more, which is a great sign. But again, you are eventually going to become the bottleneck. But it doesn't have to be this way. So let's flip over to the other side of the coin. Distributed ownership, right? It's the same product development lifecycle, but at some point in time, when you've truly enabled your developer community, teams will be enabled to to deliver on their own unique needs, instead of having to just prioritize the most ubiquitous challenges across your entire organization. Nope, doesn't affect enough users, we can't do it. Versus, we have a small team, this would massively impact us positively if we had this, let's go build it ourselves. That means your product velocity will increase exponentially as more and more teams come on board. And your focus as that centralized team, if you will, the Backstage team, the platform team, the DevX team, whatever you call yourself, will be able to focus on enablement, quality in Backstage, and of course, consistency. Awareness, obviously, awareness and adoption will come, especially as you start to feel the groundswell. And honestly, your team will still generally be small. Inside of Spotify, our team that manages our internal Backstage instance did not scale with the size of our catalog or the number of users. It has stayed generally small. And so that's great. We've got the two ends of the spectrum. Well, what are the hallmarks of a mature developer community, if you will? Well, the first bit is ownership as a cultural norm. There's that word again. We're not done. We have many more ownership mentions here coming up. And it's expected about how teams operate. Teams have the autonomy to leverage Backstage to solve their more pressing concerns, their more unique pressing concerns. Your domain experts, individuals with expertise in certain areas, they are encouraged to start contributing, and when I contribute, I mean own, certain aspects of of Backstage. Individuals are enabled and emboldened to go out and be able to build on it, but they also have a way to get help, whether that's them pulling on you or you being able to detect and sort of inject yourself when someone's going off course, get them back on piste. And then channels to engage your community, so back and forth, communication, collaboration, and being able to drive all that expertise that comes across your organization. And then lastly, the standards and guidelines for managing and owning parts of Backstage are not centralized. It's not owned by one team, which will then subsequently result in those key factors that we talked about: ownership, product velocity, and subsequently adoption and ROI. Now, that's all theoretical pie in the sky stuff. Great. What I wanted to do today, and I apologize, the slides coming up are a little bit content dense. But I wanted to leave you all with as much, with something to take away and be able to act on, no matter where you are in this journey. So we'll finish off with, we've got our journey again. I've added a third stop in the middle just to pack a little more value in it for you today. But we'll start in centralized management. We'll talk about two challenges or opportunities that exist in these different, as you move up this curve. And then on the, first one we're going to talk about is start with a real pain point. On the left for you, you'll see some tactics things that you can do, things to focus on, and then on the right, you'll see a real-world example or two. Many of them will be Spotify, to be quite honest, but some of them will be external. So first, start with a real pain point. Stack the deck in your favor. Choose an opportunity that your leadership cares about. You might see opportunities that are bigger to go tackle. That's great. Get them next. Make it easy on yourself. Go solve the challenge that your leaders are kept up at night for, the things that scare them. Second bit is catalog visibility versus workflow automation. When you're starting, Backstage, I already mentioned, is empty. And so you gain excitement, you start to, you make people aware, tell them about the art of the possible. This is what the future could look like with our catalog. And then you say, let's have you on board, and they come in and they see that none of their components are in the catalog, right? Some assembly required. Well, that can be a roadblock that gets in the way of some of that energy. So you could flip it to the other side. Start with automation, maybe. Maybe it's a software catalog, anything that actually helps them on day one at minute zero, right? And so I'm not saying to not start with catalog. If that is your key challenge in your organization, by all means, go for it. But there are other ways to start attacking your challenges with Backstage, your engineering challenges with Backstage. I mentioned personas. What this just means is make sure you truly understand who you're trying to solve, not only the problem that you're solving, but also who you are solving the problem for. In this case, Booking are getting ready to launch their instance of Backstage into production here very shortly. And they have taken a very deliberate effort to deconstruct much of the UI to create a UX that reduces some of the fragmentation that their engineers would experience between the different plugins, right? And so they wanted that flow to be much smoother for them, specific to how their workflow actually looks on a day-to-day basis. And so, like I said, highly focused on solving a very specific problem for their engineers. Define and measure success. So first off, a well-defined problem is oftentimes one of the key issues. One of the key issues that people struggle with. And so make sure it is well-defined. I'm told that it got a little less time, so I'm going to go a little bit faster. I apologize. But collect data and establish a baseline. Don't forget this. This will help you tell your story later on down the line. And then the other aspect is, so here's one, Silverflow implemented gamified scorecards. Jumped 20% in code quality, but they also used it to drive adoption across the organization. So we're moving into the middle, the builder experience. It's about establishing golden standards, so let people know what good looks like. Help people get started quicker. Spotify, we split our front end and back ends for other reasons than just this, performance-wise, but also you only have to get the front end spun up to get going. And so if you wanted to build a front end plugin, you don't have to worry about every single little bit. And of course, creating channels for builder community to engage with your experts, right? There was one a global retailer created a roadshow going around driving excitement, and they all culminated in a hackathon. Hey, look how great this product is. Come build with us in a safe environment. Outsourcing management. This is all about that ownership, shifting that ownership out into your experts, right? Get them as adjusted and involved as early as possible, right? And again, back to leveraging your experts. You shouldn't have to be the expert in absolutely everything. And then creating that deliberate space for people to be able to surface any of those challenges that they see or want to collaborate on. At Spotify, we have a thing called the Technical Steering Group, or TSG. Every major technology has it, and it's staffed by volunteers. 6-month stints, rotates. We get lots of views, differing views. We get a ton of diversity on there. And there's also the scheduled meetings so people can attend and provide input who are not just on that. And then when you make it to Nirvana, you're distributed ownership. Everything's happy, hunky-dory, but that's not necessarily true. You can still experience some challenges. And so one of those challenges is software explosion, right? I showed you 200 plugins. That can be quite a lot to be able to maintain. So first thing, make sure that your custom software inside of Backstage is discoverable through the catalog. Bit of a meta concept there. And make sure that ownership is required on all of those custom code, custom software elements. I say software is the generic term, plugins, whether they're templates, etc. So at Spotify, we lose an owner for a custom plugin, we can deprecate it and even pull it down. And if someone complains that it's mission critical, guess what? Probably just find yourself a new owner, right? So leverage these tactics for you to be able to do this. And then maintenance deadlines. Again, we need your custom plugin needs to be on the new backend system by X, new front end system by Y, right? The safe harbor projects that some of these, this new trend, right? Give them deadlines. We're going to port this over. If you don't meet these code quality requirements, we are not moving it to the safe harbor, and you'll get deprecated. And then maintain performance, code quality, and UX consistency. This one I'll breeze by. There's a talk later today, High Performance Backstage for high-performing organizations led by my colleagues Tika and Jack. This one is a great one to talk about some of the things that we did at Spotify. We struggle with performance. We have a huge catalog and a massive number of concurrent users. Someone already called out declarative templating, the CLI, the new CLI tool. Please use that and high-quality code examples for people to get started. And then ensure feedback is easy for people to be able to provide, right? And so at Spotify, all of our custom plugins, you have a Slack channel. Something's not working right, you can reach right out to them. So all this discussion ultimately underscores the fundamental truth that fostering and actively enabling your engineering community is the cornerstone of a successful Backstage implementation. A strong community will drive ownership for you. It'll accelerate your Backstage product velocity, and ultimately will lead to increased adoption and the impressive ROI numbers that you see reported out there. But it's not just the technology. It's the people, and it's the cultural shift that you need to be able to make. Real-world examples of companies like CTC and Toyota, and of course Spotify, they highlight the transformative power that Backstage can offer. So that brings me to my final question for everyone. Thinking about your own organization, what steps could you take today to further enable your own developer community? Thank you very much. My name is Stanley Nicholl. I'd love to hear your ideas. Find me on LinkedIn or at the Backstage.